In today's show, we preview the Trailblazers ahead of their Summer League slate in Las Vegas. Plus, Portland signs Bryce McGowens to a two-way contract. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. Make it a part of your daily routine. Make your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. It's a little Summer League preview in today's episode. Plus, the Blazers signed Bryce McGowens to a two-way contract, and he is joining the Summer League team, so you'll get a chance to see him immediately. That's what we're going to talk about in today's show. Kind of how I'm going to watch the guys on the roster. The Blazers, if you add in McGowens on a two-way contract, will have 5 players on the roster, including Justin Nye, who's also on a two-way deal. But three regular roster guys, 2 two-way guys, but some players to watch who are going to be part of the plan, at least as it stands right now, and almost certainly as it'll stand in the fall, part of the plan moving forward. I want to talk about kind of like how I watch Summer League and how specifically the growth areas I think each guy can hopefully demonstrate that they've made some progress in Summer League, and how to view them over a 4-game slate that begins Saturday against the San Antonio Spurs. Plus, we'll talk Bryce McGowens. Blazers signed a big combo guard. Is there anything more fun than a big combo guard? I certainly love him. We'll talk about who McGowens is and what you need to know about him as we move forward as we close out the show. Let's start with Summer League though. Blazers 4 games. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday in Vegas. If you win enough games, a point differential, you get to play a bonus championship game. But like for the most part, these games don't matter. It's fun if they win the title, but like these games don't matter. What matters is the development of young players. And for the Blazers with a full roster, it's not like anyone on the Summer League team it's very unlikely the Blazers will be having anyone on the Summer League team playing for a roster spot. Conceivably, someone could earn the final two-way spot. The Blazers have one remaining after agreeing to a contract with Bryce McGowens today. But for the most part, you're watching the roster guys get better and trying to figure out how they fit into the puzzle moving forward. And I think that's kind of the challenge for me as I watch this is seeing the puzzle. There's 2 types of prospects at Summer League. It's like 2 types of young players. There is that sort of like defining their role. What are they going to do? And I think that's what Donovan Clingan is. He fits into that. It's like, okay, we know what Clingan can probably do, but we haven't seen him play. This is a jump up in the quality of competition. Obviously, the NBA is a much larger jump from even beyond this, but like, what does he look like in this setting? What is his role going to be? Defining what that role is and kind of what his skill set is and the parameters of that skill set and what he can continue to grow on. And then there's like the dudes who are just maybe in a different role in Summer League than they otherwise would be. And I think that's what Chris Murray and Ryan Ruper fall into. It's like they're more going to have an option to be like go-to guys and maybe more be primary creators and playmakers in this sort of setting than they would be, maybe not primary, but like much more playmaking on their plates, the opportunities on their plate and responsibilities on their plate than they would in the regular season. It's like, what do they look like with expanded roles? What do they look like when they're doing much more than they would in the natural setting? Clingan will probably play something closer to what looks like his role will be when the games start, while Murray and Ryan Ruper, you hope, play nothing like that, right? You hope they like really, really try to spread their wings and expand their roles. It's kind of like the 2 types of players. Let's start with Clingan and how I'll watch him. Easily my most interesting player on the roster. Easily. Not close. With all due respect to Chris Murray and Ryan Ruper, Clingan is like, is this, we're not going to get the definition of is this like foundational piece? That's not what's going to happen over these 4 games, and is Clingan going to play both nights of the back-to-back and all that, right? With the back-to-back games, it makes we could see some funky dunky stuff, although I think they've incentivized winning enough that maybe you'll see a little bit of playing. But like the Clingan, I'm fascinated to see what he can do and what it looks like. And that starts on defense. Like, and by what it looks like, I mean, I don't need him to block a crazy number of shots. I don't need him to get crazy counting stats. I don't need a double-double. I don't need statistical symmetry. I don't need it. I don't care about that. I truly don't. But does he have defensive feel? Like, I think the what is going to make Donovan Clingan special is that he's gigantic with a little bit of mobility, but what really sets him apart is that his brain moves so fast. He processes things so quickly on defense that even if he isn't the fastest dude on earth, and he's like gigantic, that's his strength, that he's gigantic, is like he can make up for some of that lack of mobility, some of that lack of speed by just his IQ and processing, right? Is that IQ meeting mobility and turning him into something really special on defense. So his defensive feel. What does he look like guarding one-on-one in the post? What does he look like as a help defender? Say he's on the opposite side of the paint. A drive, comes from the opposite wing. A driver comes from the opposite wing, beats his man, a blow by, gets to the rim. Is Clingan there early to meet him? Does he commit too early and lead to a drop off? Does he commit too late because he's worried about the drop off and give up a layup? Does he time it perfectly and just wow you with incredible timing? Does it, do you see a little combination of both? In pick and rolls, how high up does he play? He's going to play drop coverage. He's not going to play the level, I would imagine, particularly in Summer League. It's like, so how far back is he? Does he have to drop way the hell back there? And does he get caught in between, right? Because there is an art to sort of staying with your man, the big man who's the roller, and corralling the ball. There's an art to being a really good drop defender. And then in theory, Clingan can be this. How good is he at it already in this setting when you're not playing against like really high level NBA point guards? And eventually you will be. Like, I'm fascinated to see all of that. And I bet the Blazers play zone because they're a team that plays zone in the regular season. I bet they'll play zone a little bit in this. What does Clingan look like in the zone? Does he communicate? Is he pointing and communicating help? Like, if you're the big guy in the middle of a zone in the NBA, you better talk, because if you have to match up man to man in an NBA zone. If you don't have man principles in a zone defense in the NBA, you get shredded. And if you've watched the Blazers enough recently, over the last couple of years, you're familiar with that concept. On offense, I know the big thing everyone wants him to do is shoot threes. That's pretty low on my list. I would love to see him shoot a couple threes. Sure, like, cool. Put up 1 or 2 a night, and if they go in, shoot more. But like, I don't care about that. It is so low on my list of like what's going to make Donovan Clingan a good basketball player in his first season in the league. There is a world in where eventually Donovan Clingan shooting threes is extremely valuable. I think the best type of big man to pair next to Scoot would be like a true pick and pop 3-point shooting big man who can either just like stand out in space and be a spot up shooter, or set pick and rolls and like burn teams by staying at the 3-point line and shooting those jump shots. Ayton spaces to 17, 19 feet, but the fact that he needs to be in the middle of the court does kind of gum up the plan a little bit sometimes. As a non-spacer, he can really shoot, but he's a good catch and shoot pick and pop guy, but it's like, it's just different because he doesn't take threes. I don't care about Clingan shooting threes though. I don't care about it. Eventually it'll matter, but in Summer League, I don't care. The things I care about, how does he play in the pick and roll? What's his timing like? I watched a little bit, like the second half and overtime of one of Memphis's preseason games. And the thing I really liked about Zach Edey was his feel in the pick and roll. But one of the reasons I made him pretty good in the pick and roll is because he was playing with an NBA backup point guard. Scottie Pippen Jr. is just like I think he'll be a straight up backup point guard at Memphis this year. I think he's that good. I don't think the Blazers brought anyone of that quality with them to Vegas. So it's not like, it might be more of a slog for Clingan to not play with like a better quality point guard than it was for Edey. And I don't want this to be like the comparison show, but it's impossible not to watch those two dudes play and sort of think about, the big collegiate centers who went right after each other in the draft. It's impossible not to like to do some comparison. At least think about, when I was watching Edey, think about Donovan Clingan. But what's Clingan's timing like in the pick and roll? Does he find the pocket on rolls? Does he roll too fast? Does he roll too slow? When he catches it, can he make decisions in the short roll? I don't think anyone who's setting screens for him is going to get double teamed, but he might have an option like in the pocket to make a quick decision. He's a good passer. How does that show up? Do they run dribble handoffs with him? I think that Billups' offense hasn't run a ton of dribble handoffs in the last couple of years. I wish they did it more. And Clingan, I think, could be a really good dribble handoff guy. What is he like setting screens? How solid is he there? Does he make solid contact? Does he wait? Does he commit offensive fouls? What's his timing like? What's his physicality like on screens? What's his willingness to do that? Can he be a hub out of the high post? If he catches the ball at 17 feet, what's his decision-making like there? Does he have some good touch in the post? But like the functional, connective things on offense, timing on pick and rolls, setting screens, running competent dribble handoffs, the improvising, like summer leagues can get a little dirty, can get a little yucky, like because it's like, hey, you've been practicing for 4 days with guys you just met, and like you run through that first set and it doesn't work, or someone screws it up, or the timing is just off, and you got to improvise. What is Clingan like when he has to improvise? All of those things, and then sure, shooting. Like I get the impulse to really want Donovan Clingan to be a shooter. But my thing with young players is, can you make sure your strengths are strong before you worry about your weaknesses? And I think Clingan's strengths are passing and going to be passing and screen setting, right? Like and like the decision making as an offensive player. If you can get those things to be strong, then yeah, like fine, shoot. And if he does make threes, I'm not going to be mad. Like no, don't misread it in that direction. For me, it's not a priority when I'm going to watch. Those are all the things. That's more of the like defining your role. What can you be? Also, the Blazers have said they want to play fast in Summer League, but I am so tired of thinking the Blazers are going to run in transition and then watching them never do it. That if they do, I'll be really interested to see what Clingan is like in an up-tempo offense. Is he involved, right? Like, what does he do in a team that wants to run up and down? But like, can he move quickly enough to be involved in the plays, or what does that look like? But I will not hold my breath for the Blazers to run. It's like, I've fooled me once. Fool me once. Shame on you. I don't want to be fooled twice. Like a famous former president once said. Not exactly. I'm misquoting the misquote on that one. Okay, let's talk Chris Murray. Let's talk Ryan Ruper, and then we'll close the show talking to Bryce McGowens. Who's he? That's what we'll do to close the show. Or excuse me, that's what we'll do in the second segment is talk Ruper and Murray. Join me in that second segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. There's 3 words you need to know when it comes to eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, whether that's superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. If you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, your ride or die will always have exactly what it needs, and you'll find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part's guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's talk more Summer League. Here's what I'm watching from 2 of the Blazers roster players, Chris Murray and Ryan Ruper. Let's start with Chris Murray. I'm excited for Murray this Summer League because I feel like he's already a pretty good NBA defender. He's not changing the league, but I think he's pretty competent on that end. So I have no worries about him as a defensive prospect. I think he already gets what's asked of him. I think he's shown the ability to kind of take coaching and figure stuff out. I think he's physical. I think he's interested on defense. Like, I think for the most part, that box is checked in terms of like, he's going to be okay on that end. The question for him is, what does he do on offense? Because he's not going to stick in the league if he doesn't answer that question. I mean, I think it's really that simple. It starts with shooting. In the way that I don't care about Clingan shooting, I almost only care about Chris Murray shooting because of their roles, right? If you're an off-ball forward in the league, like if you're not a dude who's going to dribble and be a primary creator, and Chris Murray's never going to be that in the NBA. He's going to be an off-ball player or a role player, a guy who is a secondary creator at best. Shooting is what lets you stay in the modern NBA. If you are Chris Murray's position and size and skill set, if you can't shoot, you probably can't play. I mean, I think it's that simple. So the number one thing on my list for Chris Murray is shot confidence. Does he shoot them every time he gets them? If Chris Murray passes up a single quality look from three in Summer League, it's bad news. This is a setting where it doesn't matter if you miss. And I think last year he struggled to shoot the ball. No doubt about it. He struggled to shoot the ball. And I think he let those struggles, like he's like, oh man, I'm really struggling. This is, it's been, I thought I was going to be a better shooter in the league. I'm just not. He let those struggles lead into some passiveness, turning down open looks. He can't do that in Summer League. Can't do that. When the games start and they count for real, that's a different calculation in your brain. Is this the best shot we can get? Like that can be a decision. In Summer League, yes, it's the best shot we can get because the best thing you can do is prioritize Chris Murray in this setting. The best thing Chris Murray can do is prioritize Chris Murray. That doesn't mean jack up terrible shots, but if he passes up a single good shot, that's a problem. Shot confidence. Take those shots. It isn't just shooting with Chris, though. It's that he doesn't do anything positive on offense. He did not do anything positive on offense as a rookie. He was good enough on defense to make me feel like if he could just shoot a little bit, if he just made his open threes, he'd be all right. Of course, if you make open threes, you get less open threes. They start guarding you, so it changes a little bit. But like, it wasn't like, oh, well, he can't shoot, but on offense, like he just doesn't do enough. So one of the things I want to see from Murray is some rim pressure. He's pretty left-handed. Like he's in the way that a lot of young players are. He favors that dominant hand, so he's going to want to push to his left hand. Attack left, Chris. Use your size. Like I think he's got the physicality and size to be someone who can get where he wants to go. I don't think he's going to be an above the rim cramming on people, but I think he has the physicality to get himself like inside 8 feet and take shots that he wants. So a little bit of rim pressure, even if it's in semi-transition, just attacking early. If you're a non-shooter, being very decisive on offense can offset some of the non-shooting. But if you're both indecisive and a non-shooter, you're just not a player. Murray's got to be decisive. I want to see him downhill, attack the rim, go for it. And then playmaking off of all of that. Off of the shooting, take all of the good shots that are available to you. Don't pass up a single good look all week long. If Chris Murray plays in all 4 games, I don't want him to pass up a single good look in 4 games. I want him to be selfish and attack the rim and try to, show off what your 2-point, your inside the arc game looks like. Because if you have an arsenal of like floaters and push shots and creative banks, and if you can get to your left hand and do these type of things, that kind of can offset some of the shooting, but you have to be able to check multiple, at least you need to be able to put pencil level checks in these boxes, even if you're not writing them in pen. And then playmaking off those things, off the drives, off the shooting, off the decisiveness. What does he look like as a playmaker? I actually think Chris Murray has a high enough basketball IQ that he sees passes very quickly. He sees and makes reads very quickly because he really has a strong understanding and strong feel for the game. It's the physical ability to make those passes. Can you make them off the bounce? Can you see them quickly enough that they happen quickly and arrive on time and on target? I do think he reads the game pretty well, but it is can your feel and read for the game catch up with your skill set? And I think they can. And I want this to be a big summer, a big week for Chris Murray. He can be selfish. Like he can be the Blazers guy who scores 25 on 22 shots, right? Like you want him to be that. You want Chris Murray. You want Chris Murray to take 20 field goal attempts in each of these 4 games. There's no reason for egalitarian nonsense. You do not need to play the game you don't need to hijack the game, right? I'm not in favor of that, but be selfish, go for it. For Ryan Ruper, if he could handle, it totally changes who he is as a player. He's not nearly the defender Chris Murray is, not even close. He has a lot of defensive potential, a lot, right? So there's some questions on that and I'll get to. But on offense, it's can he dribble? Can he dribble and get into stuff? He showed he's a much more competent shooter than I thought he was going to be in the NBA last season. Some mostly catch and shoot stuff, but a little bit of movement shooting and a little bit of shooting off the dribble. But he just can't score inside the arc. He did, or at least his rookie season, couldn't score inside the arc. So just his handle to get where he wants to go. How much has that improved? Because if that's improved, it's he's a multi-position guy, right? He can play he can play 2 and 3 and maybe even some 4 as he fills out physically because he's so big. He could play. He is a multi-position, multifaceted player. But if he can't dribble, then he can't play as much too because you assuming that the positions in some ways have meaning. Like mostly guys who play 3 and 4 are going to be less quality ball handlers than shooting guards. So then Ruper can't be this like oversized 2 guard because you just don't have enough dribblers on the court. This is like more roles are more important than position. But if he's like a ball handler type, what does that look like? And off of that, the other thing I have in my notes here is off of that ball handling, how much has his handle improved? Can he create some offense for himself? Can he have some kind of shot creation? I think he's got the makings, like he's got the outlines of a pretty quality 3-and-D wing. He was just really young. It's like, a second round teenager last year, right? You draft a guy who's 19 in the second round. It's a project. There's no urgency on Ruper to be like, oh, he needs to be NBA level, but like you want him to take strides, and some of the strides for me start with the handles and the shot creation. On defense is the versatility. How many different types of players does he guard? Chris Murray might get a lot of the primary assignments, but I bet Ruper will get some of them. Like, hey, who's the best player on the other team? Go guard him. Does he guard point guards? Does he guard wings? How big up the spectrum does he go? Does he guard some forwards, physical forwards, depending on the Blazers' needs and who Chris Murray is guarding? Like his defensive versatility it'll be really interesting. He clearly wants to be a good defender. I think you like that about Ryan Ruper. He just wasn't there yet. He has the tools to be there, and watching those tools grow a little bit this week in Vegas will be fascinating. Okay, let's talk Bryce McGowens and the two-way guys, getting to know Bryce McGowens in that third segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. If you are experiencing a major traumatic event in your life, a therapist can be an incredibly valuable resource to talk to a neutral third party about what you're dealing with. But you do not need to be experiencing a major trauma to benefit from therapy. Talking to a neutral third party regularly can help you develop the tools to be a better version of yourself. We're often comparing ourselves to who we were in the past and who we want to be in the future and people that we see outside of ourselves. And if you can have these, neutral conversations, develop you the tools to kind of quiet some of that comparative mind and comparative talk, you can help you move forward to what you want to be. If you're thinking about starting therapy, there's a lot of options, but BetterHelp is one of the most convenient and the most affordable. So why not give BetterHelp a try? It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and then you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing, start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Let's talk a little bit about Bryce McGowen. The Blazers added a new player to the roster today on a two-way deal. McGowens is like a 6'6" combo guard. He was drafted in the 2022 draft, in the second round of the 2022 draft, number 40 overall, and ended up after a series of draft day trades as a member of the Charlotte Hornets, and has spent each of the last 2 seasons in Charlotte, and across 105 games, including 21 starts with the Hornets. He's averaged 5.2 points, 1.9 boards, and 1 assist in about 16 minutes a game. He also played in the G League a little bit with the Greensboro Swarm. Shout out to Marcus Page, my dude. And he was on a 2-way contract, and he was pretty good in the G League, right? 22 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, 1.8 steals in 35 minutes a night. A very productive G League player. And he comes over to Portland on a 2-way contract. They now have 2 of those 2-way contracts filled with Justin Minaya and Bryce McGowens. I loved Bryce McGowens coming out of the draft. There was all this talk, I recall, in the summer of 2022 that Bryce McGowens, a 19-year-old slashing 6'6" combo guard with the size and athleticism to get himself to the rim, coming out of Nebraska, was the sleeper of the draft. And boy, I fell for it. I love that dude. I thought he rocked. I really did. I was like, I was a big McGowens believer in 2022, and he just never put it together. I think in 2 years in Charlotte, he hasn't quite figured it out yet. He's, you're going to see him in Summer League. He's not old yet. Came to the league as a teenager. He spent 2 years in the league. He's not yet 22. Like there's plenty of time, but he struggled to shoot. And then he hasn't been like an elite enough slasher or playmaker. And he was supposed to have these great playmaking chops too, but he hasn't been either of those things to like really cut it in the league. I can't act like I've seen a ton of Bryce McGowens. Like he's played 105 games. I've seen him 6 times, maybe. I know he played against the Blazers this year, and I've caught a handful of Hornets games here and there. But even then, like, it would be like, oh, Bryce McGowens, I remember him. Like I wasn't watching him with any intent where I'd be like, where I could give you like a earnest scout. I'm talking about just sort of my, so I don't have like a strong like here's what a strong update. But from what I've read and the box scores I've perused a little bit, this is some box score scouting. The shot just never really materialized. Here's here's a good one for you. This is for my eagle-eyed press release readers. In this press release, the Blazers mentioned Bryce McGowens shot 41.9% from the field and 76.4% from the free throw line. And I was like, hey, that's weird that they don't mention his 3-point shooting. Shot about 33% in the NBA and worse in the G League, under in the 20s. Not a good shooter, right? Like, so I was like, oh yeah, they took that out because he wasn't a good shooter. So I went back and looked at the official press release when they announced Justin Manaya's signing. Field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, but they didn't list Justin Manaya's free throw percentage, which was 50%. That is neither here nor there, but I will say, people who put the Blazers press release together, I'm reading these closely. I know what you did. McGowens is an intriguing flyer. Add him to the list of like 6'6", multi-skilled wingy types who can't shoot. Blazers got a lot of them. If like I said, McGowens was my guy in the summer of 2022. I was a believer of someone who I'd only watched YouTube videos. Can't say that I was watching a lot of Go Big Red basketball way back then, but like, if you know me, if you're a long time listener to the program, shout out to my everydayers. You know that I love big combo guards, funky combo guards, and this is kind of what McGowens is. He's 6'6", skinny with some off the dribble juice, slashing juice, but not quite enough of an offensive arsenal. I think he's an interesting two-way flyer, right? Like a productive, still young, productive in the G League. Maybe you get him in your building and in the Blazers like player development incubator and he becomes something. And if not, a very low risk flyer. Blazers will have one two-way spot remaining. So it's just Manaya and McGowens, and then they have a two-way spot. I know there's been a lot of speculation from reported by Sean Highkin that he anticipated the Blazers would bring back Ibu Baji, and now he's not on the Summer League roster. He's playing for the Milwaukee because he's he has G League rights with the Milwaukee's, the Herd, their G League affiliate. So if he's not on a two-way contract, when he goes back to the G League team, it's kind of like weird G League stuff. But I think certainly doesn't look like super likely that Baji could be back. So they're probably going to have another two-way spot available. So someone on this Summer League roster could be playing for two-way minutes. In terms of like what I'm watching with Manaya and McGowens, the two-way guys in the Summer League, like Manaya, it's like, what's your offensive package? He plays hard on defense. He's a competitive, plays hard on defense. I again, don't have to worry about what he's going to bring on defense because he brings a lot of energy and hustle, and a little bit of enough grit to get in the way. He's not like a lockdown guy, but I'm not that end. I think he's getting there. Just like, what's his offensive package? What does Manaya do? Because he hasn't really been a shooter in the league, and what else can he do? Summer League is a great time to expand that. And for McGowens, it's like, I just want to get to know him. What do you do? Like on both ends, what do you do? I think this will be a good introduction to him. Certainly someone I'll be watching closely. I want to close this with some Summer League thoughts real quick. There are two types of players in Summer League. There are Josh Selby's and there are Nicholas Batums. Josh Selby was the co-MVP with Damian Lillard in the summer of 2012. Damian Lillard is going to make the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Josh Selby barely stuck in the league. There are some dudes who kill it in Summer League and are not NBA players. It might be hard to spot. You're going to believe. You're going to see the buckets going and you're going to believe. But don't get too caught up in 4 games in Vegas because there are Josh Selby's out there. But there's also Nicholas Batum's. Nicholas Batum sucked in Summer League. This was way back in the summer of 2008 when I was watching Petteri Koponen and Jared Bayless, and I believed I was watching the backcourt of the future, a 6'4" Finnish point guard and a little dude from Arizona who with a mean-looking jump shot, Jared Bayless, Petteri Koponen, I believed, and the Blazers had another rookie on the roster who sucked. He could barely dribble, and I said, this Batum character stinks. Batum can't play at all. Turns out Nicholas Batum started coming out of training camp, but he was awful in Vegas, awful. And he was like an NBA starter a few months later. There are Josh Selby's and there are Nicholas Batum's. So don't get caught up too much in it. Don't get caught up too much in it. If a guy stinks, it doesn't mean that much. If a guy rocks, it doesn't mean that much. It's going to be impossible not to like really believe or really doubt, but just remember the Josh Selby's and the Nicholas Batum's. I think for more, like some of you don't remember the summer of 2008 because that was 6 years ago and you were like 12, but trust me, he was terrible. But for more recent examples, like Trae Young really struggled in Summer League and he was fine. Franz Wagner really struggled in Summer League and then he averaged like 16 a game as a rookie. Like there are more recent examples of guys like who are like straight up bad and now have max contracts. Don't get caught up too much. Koponen and Jared Bayless are classics from 08. 08 is a classic, man. That if you were around with me working in the dish pit at Andina, we were heavy believers. My fellow bus folks, my fellow bussers at Andina back then, heavy believers in the 08 Blazers Summer League. Things have changed. Now I have a microphone. Anyways, that is going to do it for this week of shows. 5 of them, wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. And guess what? We'll do it again next week. I'll try to have a guest next week. I know that this show's better with at least once a week, me talking to someone else. I had some scheduling issues this week, but back on it next week. And then we'll talk Vegas. Blazers play Saturday, so next time you hear my voice, we'll talk about that game. Saturday, 6 p.m. against the Spurs. 6 p.m. scheduled tip-off. The way like the games happen in the same gym, so it'll start later than 6 p.m. It's going to be a little bit later, probably in the 6:30 range against the Spurs. That'd be a good one. Stephon Castle versus Clingan. Monday against the Sixers, Tuesday against the Wizards, and Friday against the Sixers. That's the slate. I'll cover them all for you. It's what we do 5 days a week wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.